Hello, I'm Andy Teach, host of Andy's Awesome Adventures, and today we'll be visiting several of Amsterdam's famous churches. First, we will visit not only Amsterdam's oldest church, but Amsterdam's oldest building, the Oude Kerk, or the Old Church, which just happens to be located on the edge of the red light district, which is probably why a pimp warned me not to take photos or film people in this area as I was filming the church. The building was founded in 1213 and was consecrated in 1306. After the Reformation in 1578, it became a Calvinist church, which it remains today. It is also now a center for contemporary art and heritage. The church has a permanent exhibit on its history and Amsterdam's history. Before the Reformation in Amsterdam in 1578, the Oude Kerk was Roman Catholic. Following William the Silent's defeat of the Spanish in the Dutch Revolt, the church was taken over by the Calvinist Dutch Reformed Church. Throughout the 16th century battles, the church was looted and defaced on numerous occasions. Only the paintings on the ceiling, which were unreachable, were spared. The ceiling is the largest medieval wooden vault in Europe. The Estonian oak planks date to 1390. Locals would gather in the church to gossip, peddlers sold their goods, and beggars sought shelter. This was not tolerated by the Calvinists, and the homeless were expelled. In 1681, the Oude Kerk became home to the Registry of Marriages. It was also used as the city archives. The most important documents were locked in a chest covered with iron plates and painted with the city's coat of arms. The chest was kept safe in the Iron Chapel. The church was built over a cemetery, and local citizens continued to be buried inside the church until 1865. There were 2,500 graves in the church and 10,000 people buried in the ground underneath the church. Those buried here include naval heroes, regents, poets, and the wife of famous Dutch painter Rembrandt. Rembrandt was a frequent visitor to the Oude Kerk, and his children were all christened here. Rembrandt's marriage record is on display here. The Oude Kerk holds 4 pipe organs, but the largest is the grand organ. It was built by the German Christian Vada from 1724 to 1726 and is regarded as one of the finest Baroque organs in Europe. It has 54 gold-plated oak pipes. It was acknowledged by the church commissioners as, quote, perfect, end quote. The organ was dismantled while renovations were made to the church tower in 1738, and upon reassembling it, Caspar Mulla made alterations to give the organ more force. It became known as the Vada Mulla organ. The wooden spiral staircase was built in 1516 and originally stood in another part of the church. It's called the English spiral staircase, and it leads to the roof. There aren't a lot of stained glass windows, but the ones that are here are worth looking at. Before we head to the next church, let's look at a few more highlights of the Oude Kerk. Next is the Nieuwe Kerk, or the New Church, which is located in Dam Square, close to the Royal Palace. So another highlight of Dam Square is the Nieuwe Kerk, or the New Church, which is over here. And it was dedicated in 1409. So it's not really new, but the reason they call it new is because there's also the Old Church, and they're trying to distinguish the two, but they're both several hundred years old. So maybe they should have called it the Newer Church. It was built from 1380 to 1408 and was dedicated in 1409 to St. Catherine. It used to be a Dutch Reformed church before becoming a Protestant church in 1578. It was built because they were running out of room at the Oude Kerk due to the growing population. It's no longer used for church services, but instead you'll find art and photography exhibitions and organ recitals. We paid to see the current exhibition so we can go inside and explore the church. The Nieuwe Kerk also has official meetings and cultural events. Royal ceremonies are performed here. In fact, Dutch monarchs have been inaugurated here since 1814 in front of the brass choir screen. In 2002, the Nieuwe Kerk was the venue for the wedding of Dutch King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima. Millions of people watched the wedding on television. There were 3 large fires here in 1421 and 1452, which were part of 2 large city fires, and the 3rd large fire was in the winter of 1645, when the roof was destroyed and the entire church was almost burned down. It was rebuilt in Gothic style and later in Neo-Gothic style. From 1959 to 1980, the church underwent a major restoration. Like the Oude Kerk, there are many gravestones and tombs here, including those of Dutch naval heroes. In fact, 10,000 people are buried below the church. Since 1866, burial in a church has been illegal in Amsterdam. Very few gravestones are in their original places, as many were reused and parts of the floor would be restored. Jan Karel Josephus van Speyk was a Dutch naval lieutenant commander with the United Netherlands Navy who became a hero in the Netherlands for his opposition to the Belgian Revolution. In February 1831, a storm blew his gunboat into the dock at the port of Antwerp. The Belgians stormed his ship, demanding van Speyk take down the Dutch flag. Rather than surrender his ship, he either fired a pistol or he threw a lighted cigar into a barrel of gunpowder in the ship's magazine. According to legend, he shouted, quote, "I'd rather be blown up then," end quote. The number of Belgians killed is unknown, although it was probably a few dozen. 28 of his 38 crewmen also died in the blast. He is considered a hero to this day because of his refusal to surrender. The great organ, which has the appearance of a classical temple, was commissioned in 1645 and was completed in 1655. In the 17th century, it was controversial to have organs in a Protestant church, as some church ministers thought music was unnecessary and could lead to sinful thoughts. Despite this, the Amsterdam city government took a different view. The decorations all relate to music. Standing on the organ is King David with his harp, together with women depicting the arts of singing and playing music, while the painted panels beneath show David's anointment as king. The lower panels feature musicians, with the painter himself appearing behind a pane of glass. Music is also a recurrent theme in the other decorations, such as in the relief under the organ, which includes the symbols of Amsterdam. Now let's look at a few more highlights of the Nieuwe Kerk before visiting the next church. As we approach the Anne Frank house, you can see the Westertoren, the tower of the Westerkerk church, which was undergoing renovations. Anne Frank would hear the church bells ring every day from this church. The Westerkerk is a reformed church within Dutch Protestant Calvinism. It was built between 1620 to 1631 in Dutch Renaissance style and was designed by architect Hendrik de Keyser. The building of the Westerkerk was completed by his son. It was the largest Protestant church in the world at the time and remains the largest church in the Netherlands that was built for Protestants. The tower was not finished until 1638. It is 85 meters or 278 feet high and is the tallest church tower in Amsterdam. Dutch painter Rembrandt was buried here in 1669. This is a memorial plaque that was placed here in 1906 on the 300th anniversary of his birth. The exact whereabouts of his grave in the church are unknown. Many other painters are buried in the church as well. The main organ was completed in 1686. It was enlarged in 1727. The organ shutters or panels were painted by Gerard de Laresse. On the left panel, we see the dancing and playing King David in front of the Ark of the Covenant. On the right panel, we see the Queen of Sheba presenting gifts to King Solomon. Both stories are from the Book of Kings in the Old Testament. The inside of the shutters have paintings of old musical instruments. The complete organ was cleaned and repainted in 1992 and restored as much as possible to its original state. Now let's see more of the Westerkerk. Zuiderkerk was the first Protestant church in Amsterdam. It was built from 1603 to 1611, and it was designed in Amsterdam Renaissance style by Dutch architect Hendrik de Keyser, who also designed the Westerkerk. In fact, de Keyser is buried here, as is 3 of Rembrandt's children, as Rembrandt's house was close by. The tower was completed in 1614 and contains Amsterdam's oldest clock, which is from 1511. The bells were installed in 1656. The church was painted by famous French Impressionist Claude Monet around 1874. The church was no longer used as a place of worship after 1929. It was used as a morgue at the end of World War II, was closed in 1970 because it was on the verge of collapse, was renovated from 1976 to 1979, and the tower underwent renovation from 2014 to 2017. Since 1988, the church serves as a municipal information center featuring various exhibitions. The Noorderkerk is a 17th century Protestant church in Amsterdam, which is located along Prinsengracht Canal on Noordermarkt Square. The church is used for Dutch Reformed church services and is also used for classical music concerts. The architect was once again Hendrik de Keyser. After de Keyser's death in 1621, his son took over and oversaw the completion. The church was built from 1620 to 1623 to serve the rapidly growing population of the New Jordaan neighborhood. The Jordaan already had a church, the Westerkerk, but the city government decided that a second church should be built to serve the northern part of the neighborhood. The Noorderkerk became the church for the common people, while the Westerkerk was used mainly by the middle and upper classes. Well, if you made it this far in the video, here's a bonus: St. Nicholas Basilica. As you will see, this Roman Catholic church is extremely ornate inside, unlike the Protestant churches that we've been visiting. The Basilica is the city's primary Roman Catholic church. Construction was completed on the church in 1887. No filming is permitted during Mass, but I filmed this right after Mass. The interior is just stunning.